That's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to this here episode number 77 of the Degen Roundtable. I am your host, Mr. Will Stevenson. I'm going to be bringing us down the show today. Why do the smartest Degens watch the Degen Roundtable? That's because this is where all the information is found, where all the juicy sauce is shared, and where we have the best friendships and the funnest times. Joining me tonight, I have my co-host, Mr. Zenith. Zenith is the Degen Roundtable's government and legal analyst. I'm also joined by Mr. Dace Northal. He is the gentleman that runs the Degen Roundtable Telegram. Make sure you guys scan that QR code at the bottom. Join that Telegram. Come hang out and say hi. And then I'm also joined by Agent J, our great value technical analyst, bringing us through the charts and everything. Gentlemen, what's new and exciting with you? How are you all doing today? Zenith, what's up, bro?
I am doing very well, just trying to keep up with everything going on, and I do have a small screen share here for you.
Oh.
We may have continued work from Friday. We have finished our Warhammer guy. There you go. So we have Lamarty's of the Blood Angels, the Death Company Chaplain. This is a lot of fun, so that's what I've been up to this weekend. Really enjoying it. And I don't know, painting's just cathartic. It's just a good time. And
oh, man,
it's a good distraction from everything else going on. So easy way to put down the charts, go do something else, and not worry about it.
I like it, bro. I like it. Warhammer's got some great lore, some great stories. I'm glad to see that you're out there making some beautiful pieces of artwork. Mr. Dace Northal, amigo, what's new and exciting with you? Your background looks awfully similar to my background. What's up, bro?
Man, I've busy with work, and I got some dude who just started staying in my house. I don't know what the deal is. Yeah, I've been hanging with you a good bit over the weekend. I also been really busy with work. You came to one of my job sites today. But yeah, incredibly busy, actually. The business is growing, which is a good problem. So yeah, trying to keep up with everything, focused on the things that are the most productive, because there's only so many hours in the day.
Hell yeah. I got to say, you guys, watching Dace do his magical sound mixing like during the church ceremonies and everything, it's freaking awesome. He's got this board in front of him, like I don't know, this big or something, and it's got all these little switches, all these little buttons and screens, and he's out there like boop, boop, bop, 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 like mixing things. There's like wave graphs going up and down, and like all of a sudden the preacher, like his S's are less sharp and his T's are less sharp, and the whole thing sounds phenomenal. It's crazy cool watching this man in action. So that was a real treat getting to be able to see you do that stuff today, Mr. Day. So
well, and on the Degen side, we also got to play some cards as well. We played some poker, if I recall.
Yes, indeed, we did. That was a good time as well. Met some of your friends down here, man. You know some cool people, bro. So I am excited for further trips down here to get to hang with all the proper Degens and see all the cool stuff that's going on. Mr. Agent J, what is new and exciting with you, broski? How you been?
Oh, I have been doing very well, and you are indeed correct. It is quite something to see an audio engineer do their thing, because what audio engineers do or musicians in general, I've noticed this with a lot of musicians too, is they tend to be able to create chaos, a lot of order within the chaos, right? You observe Dace bobbing and weaving through all of the different dials, so all of the different waves, basically coordinating. He's like a catcher on a baseball team, right? He's coordinating a lot of plays. He has to have a wide field of view, and he has to create some kind of beautiful order within all that chaos. So being able to watch Dace do his thing is probably extremely impressive. I have a lot of musicians in my family, and I see them do a lot of the exact same things. So I definitely know what you're talking about there. So I'm glad you got to see him in action.
I never heard catcher on a baseball team. I'm gonna have to remember that one. That's interesting. I like it.
Yeah, or if not catcher in a baseball team, maybe the point guard of a basketball team, right? It's the team captain running all the plays, having have to handle both his team and then also keep an eye out on the opposing team because he's gonna have to predict what they're gonna do and be able to pivot on a dime.
In this case, the opposing team is the audience. But yes,
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. But I've been doing well. I also got a visitor here just a few days ago. Our good buddy Sam came to visit some family over there from the Great White North, and we spent some time on Friday, had some lunch with him, talk crypto, talk family, talk plans of the future. It seems like him and the family might be considering Arizona sometime in the future as well. So that was a lot of fun. I got to catch up. It was the first time meeting him in person, and it was awesome. I was telling him the exact same thing that I told Will when he came to visit here. I told him, me and Will were having this conversation about how me and Will probably met a total of 3 times, spent less than 6 hours together, and most of our interactions have happened online. But it I don't know. Maybe it's just our community that we have been able to develop this like brotherhood and this incredible amount of rapport with each other. But it didn't matter that I've only seen Sam's face like once during a meeting. When we got down together and had lunch, it was like we were friends for decades, and we picked up right where we left off, and that's exactly how it was. So it's always really good to be able to meet the people that you spend so much time with online and be able to attach a face and a voice to the screen handle. So that's what happened last week. And then aside from that, I bought more crypto. Well, what's you? Bought more Bitcoin. I actually consolidated a lot of my positions into Bitcoin this morning because I just had a sneaking suspicion that we were going to take a nosedive. So consolidated a lot of positions to the Bitcoin. The Ethereum order that I've told everybody over the past few weeks, sitting at 1650. I said we are most likely going to get to 1650. We got to 1650 and lower. Some of those orders hit. And I'm just buying more, man. I'm just buying more, whether we're going to be in an extended bear market or not, or this is just another buy the dip scenario before a bigger run into the remainder of 2025. It doesn't matter to me. I want more Bitcoin. I want more Ethereum because we have a long-term perspective here at the DGen Roundtable, and we're not going to get flushed out of the market like the middle of the bell curve is. So the week's been good, and it's going to keep getting good.
That is absolutely fantastic, bro. And when you're talking about Sam, you're talking about Brothers 64 Sam, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
That's so cool, man. That is awesome. Shout out to the Brothers 64. For those of you guys in the audience who don't know who they are some gentlemen. They have an Instagram, a YouTube. They do all the short form content creation, but their stuff focuses on like little 1 minute, super cool, awesome explainer videos that talk about like the super duper simple concepts having to do with cryptocurrency, with personal finance, with stuff of that nature, and they do everything themed off of like the Nintendo 64. So they make some great content. Shout out to Sam and Greg. Go check out Brothers 64 on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. They make some great content. Super digestible for everybody in our 25 to 45 age range. And yeah, shout out to those Brothers 64. It's really, all their stuff is super nostalgic, and they're great people as well. So that's super cool. You got to meet them in real life. And speaking of meeting people and real life interaction, it's time for the very best part of the show. It's time for chat motherfucking shout outs, the part of the show where we shout out all the folks in the audience. And thank you all for watching and commenting and listening with us. Starting off with our very own moon-pilled Rational Optics, a real-life friend of mine. Why do the smartest Degens assemble and watch Degen Roundtable? Is it A, great minds think alike, B, misery loves company, or C, my crazy matches your crazy? I think it's a little bit of all of the above. Shout out to moon-pilled Rational Optics. We fucking love you, broski. It's good to see you, dude.
That's a cut above the average multiple choice options.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's every single one is right. A lot of these multiple choice questions you find in real life is like two decent answers, one of which is more correct than the other, and then just two like off the wall answers. So Moonpill, he really fucking nailed that one right on the head. But next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Brendan from the DGen Roundtable. Shout out to Brendan. He is watching Mr. Messi tonight. Messi, as I understand it, is a sports ball player, and he happens to be a really good sports ball player. I want to say he's like soccer or basketball or something. So shout out to Brendan. I know he likes his sports ball, whether it's football, soccer, basketball, hockey, hacky, as the New Englanders would say. But I hope you're having an excellent time watching Mr. Messi tonight, amigo. Next up on the chat shoutouts, we've got, yes, the DGen Roundtable. That was me. Make sure that you guys like that smash button. Absolutely right. And then after that, we've got Funk Master Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, Mr. Funk Master Hex. Always good to see you, the Monopoly man with the hexagons, eyeballs. It is good to see you, broski. Welcome to the stream. After that, we've got my good Marine Corps friend, Mr. Slide 180, my amigo Josh. What's up, Josh? Good to see you in the comments, broski. I'm glad you're always able to slide on in here and lift some beers for the boys. It's good to see you, bro. I'm going to be coming back to Texas Monday evening nighttime, so I'll see if I can swing by your spot and come say hello. And then next up in the chat shoutouts, we've got Farmer J, aka Farmer Brown, Wen Moon. I got no idea, bro. I got no idea. You're asking the wrong guy. Maybe Jay and Dace and Zenith could tell you a little bit more. They're smarter than I am. I'm just the guy that talks to people on the internet and has a good time. But we'll get to the moon eventually, broski. Don't you worry. We'll get you out of that tent underneath the 405, and we'll get you into a proper, like, a yurt or something, or maybe even a cardboard box. Get you some nice accommodations, or a tiny home. Perhaps we can all pool our money and get Farmer Jay one of those little Home Depot sheds, and just find a way to throw some insulation in there and make it a good time. But that's all we got for the chat shoutouts. Thank you all for watching. Whether you guys are catching us live or you're watching us on the replay gang, we love each and every single one of you. And we especially love those of you guys that send the chats our way. And that's what we've got for that. Mr. Agent J, I'm going to kick it on over to you for some technical analysis, if you don't mind, sir.
Oh, we're going to do charts first? Okay, dokie. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. TLDR is buy the dip. Buy the dip. Buy the dip.
Down.
Buy the dip, but you might want to hold off on buying the entire dip because we might get more dippity dip after this current dip. So first and foremost, we're going to go over Bitcoin, and then we're going to go over a little bit of Ethereum. The story is pretty much the same for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, and the rest of the crypto space. And it seems like it's the same story for the rest of the traditional markets as well, because everything is dipping hard. And actually, comparatively, when you consider the magnitude, the S&P, for example, the Mag 7, those guys, they're crashing a lot more aggressively, comparatively, right, for them, than the rest of the crypto space, actually. So we're holding up much better. But you guys know, if you've caught any of the prior Sunday streams, our streams on Walk the Block on Monday, or the Telegram exclusive content that we put out on a daily basis over at the DGen Roundtable Telegram, you know that even though we were optimistically bullish, we were still leaning fairly bearish on the short term. And at least me personally, you have heard me say that any single move to the upside, until the bulls have, like, the onus of responsibility is on them to prove to us, right, that they're ready to get really bullish again, any move to the upside will be assumed as a corrective counter trend rally, and that eventually we are going to be headed to the downside once again. And unfortunately for the bulls here on Bitcoin, we did hit the 886 just a bit earlier today at 77,861. That is the Fibonacci retracement taken from our cycle low here back in March to our current 13-day cycle high over here on the third week of March. And that's where you get your 886. We just hit that, which means on a balance of probabilities, we are most likely going to take this 76.6K low here back in early March, right? Just probabilities, never certainties, but the 886 is, it's what's that saying? 886 is undefeated. So there's undefeated, that. But Before we get to the Elliott wave analysis, let's go over the 60-day cycle for Bitcoin. So like I said, we have a cycle high here on day 13th. And if I were betting man, I bet that we actually do take the cycle low, roll over into lower prices, which means we are going to be looking for lower prices for Bitcoin until, at the minimum, anywhere between day 40, which puts us at Sunday, April 20th. But ideally around day 45, right? I think anything less than 45 days, even for a left translated cycle, is very rare for the Lucas cycles. So third week of April, around April 25th, is the earliest I would expect us to see a cycle low if we do indeed take the 76.6K low. And then if we extrapolate all the way 60 days later, we are looking at around May 10th for the 60-day cycle low, right? And that is the TLDR for the 60-day cycles. I'm sure Zenith will go over some of the moving averages a little bit later on, but we did indeed have the death cross, which means the 50-day moving average has moved below the 200-day moving average. We spoke about that. I believe it was sometime either on Friday or Thursday that on a balance of probabilities, whenever the death cross gets really close, the market tends to dump heading into the death cross, which it did. And then most likely we're going to get a counter trend rally, bounce to the upside, and then get rejected and continue down lower. So a little bit of some foreshadowing here, right? Some predicting on what's going to happen into the future, but it tends to happen and it tends to play out that way, especially if you try and back test the data. You'll see that tends to happen. Dump into the death cross, counter trend rally, back up into the 200-day moving average, get rejected at 200, and then continue down lower. So that's definitely what I'm expecting heading into the latter half of April here and then in the early parts of May. So what can we expect in terms of prices? Let's just go over the local structures here for Bitcoin. Let's go over to the 4-hour chart so we could take a look at some potential targets for those of you who still have capital sitting on the side. Hopefully your capital hasn't been completely exhausted or you're still making more.
I was going to say, hopefully you're making more capital. That's the
yes.
Why are you not? Why are you not making more?
Precisely. The people that are not making more days are probably the people who are expecting to exit in 2025, assuming that the 4-year cycle stays intact. And let's just hope those folks didn't quit their day jobs because my goodness, man, my goodness. But yeah, let's take a look at some targets to the downside. For those of you who are still looking to buy the dippity dip after the dip. Okay, let me open up my folders here for the local structure. So there is always a bullish and bearish scenario. However, regardless of if we're looking at the bearish and bullish scenario, we are actually looking for a move down. What will determine whether we get bullish continuation and trend reversal or bearish continuation is the structure, right? That's going to occur after we get that bounce. And so I will show you what the current scenarios are for both the bulls and the bears. So for the bulls, what we're looking for is an ABC, right? An A already in, B already in. We're looking for a C to finish correction, 3-wave correction before bullish continuation to the upside. That is your bullish scenario, right? But we are still looking for a low. The bearish scenario is actually very similar, but instead of an ABC correction, then continuation up, what you're looking for is a 1-2 already in, and you're looking for a wave 3 to come in, right? And then after the wave 3 is in, you're looking for a bounce into a 4, rejection at your 4, and then eventually bearish continuation of the prevailing bear trend into lower prices, most likely somewhere in between the low to mid 70s, so $70,000 to $74,000. Right. So very similar scenario in terms of both the bulls and the bears. Now, what are your price targets to the downside? If we take a trend-based fib extension, right? And the trend and the fib is actually, the fib extension is going to be the same no matter which scenario you're looking at, because you're pulling the fibs from the exact same place. In the bullish scenario, you're looking to pull the fib from the start to the end of A to the end of B, and that's how you get your targets for C. And then similarly for the bearish one, if you're looking at a bearish structure, right, impulse, you take the fib from the start to the end of 1 to the end of 2, and you get your targets for 3. So the exact same fib regardless. So the prices we are looking for, right, we've actually already hit a lot of our minimum targets, right? The minimum targets for the 3 or C is anywhere between the 1 to the 1.382 Fibonacci, all of which have already been taken. So our next level to consider is just above our current or our prior cycle low at 76,691. If we lose the 1618 Fibonacci, which I think we actually will, your next major level of horizontal support for Bitcoin is actually, aside from the psychological level at $70,000, is actually your 2024 range high. Remember in 2024, that very long sideways range that we spent in from around late April to late August, right? That is the range high at 73,835. Call it a flat 74K. If we lose 74K, then the next major fib is the 2618 at $70,000. And then if you somehow manage to lose that major fib as well, the next really big area of major horizontal support for Bitcoin is the 2024 range point of control. That is, we're still talking about the 2024 range. The point of control where the most amount of trading volume occurred is sitting at $63,500 for Bitcoin. But we'll get there when we get there. We take it level by level. And right now, the first level we are looking to take out for Bitcoin is the 1618 at 76.6K, and eventually take the last cycle low at $76.6 thousand. Right? So you have your price targets to the downside. Right? If you're trying to snipe lows, or you're trying to look for an entry point for a quick flip, a quick trade, there are your price targets. And then in terms of time, when can we expect this initial correction to finish, right? If you take a fib time tool from the start to the end of A to the end of B, our uncommon target has already been hit. Our structure has not. And so we're actually looking for the first part of this correction to end at least around the 1 fib time. So that puts you around Wednesday, Wednesday, April 9th. So that is the more common target for the C wave, right? We're looking at the bullish scenario now. So you're looking for this correction to finish at least sometime after the 1 fib time. So Wednesday, April 9th at 9 a.m. So there is your price targets, and there is your time targets for the local structures for Bitcoin. And let me tell you, if more negative tariff news comes out next week, that I guarantee you we're most definitely going to be looking at lower prices. So just be conservative in your entries. Make sure you have your stop losses tight, because I think we do still have a little bit more downside action to go. I know that's not what you want to hear, but here at the DGen Roundtable, we give you both bullish and bearish scenarios, because you have to have a plan for both. Before we move over to Ethereum, Zenith, Dace, did you guys have anything to add for Bitcoin?
You had just briefly, you'd mentioned Lucas. Lucas tweeted, and he is
he did
that he is out. That he thinks that we're in a bear cycle, and he's hitting the eject button, so to speak.
Dace, was that the tweet that he sent a few days ago, or was that more recently over the weekend?
I've got it pulled here. It says April 3rd. I'm starting to think we're heading into a recession or bear market, maybe a milder one, but it's looking likely. Administration's been dropping hints that their policies could lead us here. And since they're elected, it's their right to follow through on that vision. It's a long tweet. And then, since then, there've been a bit of a backlash. And so that's the guy who came up with the 60-day cycles. And so you mentioned Bob Lucas. That was pertinent to the macro of what's going on right now. Go ahead,
yes, sir.
Speaking of good old Bob, I have a thought experiment I want to run by you guys real quick. Will, if you don't mind, I have a screen share when you're ready. Alrighty. Hear me out. What is the possibility that instead of having our cycle low on the 11th, we actually had the cycle low on the 28th of February? So instead of being in a 26-day cycle right now, we're actually closer to 37. So instead, we have a 47-day cycle and a 37-day cycle looking for a potential low. It's maybe sometime around tax day or one of those fib targets that you talked about.
That would be preferred. I would much rather prefer that alternative 60-day cycle count, which is totally reasonable. Because what was the high if that was the case? Z, was that a seven-day high?
That
the last cycle.
For this one? Yeah, this is a day seven high.
Yep. So a day 7 high into a day 47 low would be well within the bounds of a normal left translated cycle, right? A low after day 45, and then we are in the tail end of the next 60-day cycle. That would be my preferred. I would prefer that a lot more, Z. I don't know about anybody else, but I would rather us find a cycle low sooner rather than later, man.
It's true. The only real anomaly, if you try to take that count, though, is that it means that you have a day 2 cycle high for the current cycle, which is
I know
well beyond standard deviations. Like that's probably 4 or 5 standard deviations out there.
Yeah, what's the earliest cycle low that we had? Z, like 4 or 5?
I want to say it's somewhere in there. I'd have to back check my data, but
that's okay. Yeah,
I've really only seen like a 6 or a 7. I can't remember seeing a 4 or a 5.
Yeah,
man. A 2.
A day 2 high. Yeah, man. Again, just like because it's so far at the tail end of that distribution curve, as optimistic as I want to be, bro, it's like a day 2 high, probably unlikely. But
yeah,
let's let Price tell us what he wants to do, man.
That's true. You mentioned the moving averages earlier. I'll go ahead and highlight it right now. We have the yellow, which is our 20, the orange is the 50, and the red is our 200-day moving average. Yep, we did have the death cross literally today/yesterday, where the 50 moved below the 200. We were still well below the 20-day. We came up above it, came down, tried to test the 50, and then we couldn't even recover the 20-day moving average, and we were moving towards the downside. The 50-week moving average, on the other hand, we are getting real close to that guy.
Yikes.
Yeah, so we've had periods where we've just a hair or a whisker gone below it, not by much, but we've pretty much approached it twice now. This is our second approach. Yeah. So the odds, in my opinion, the odds of breaking through the 50-week moving average have increased dramatically, especially if we're doing this what looks like we had a test and now we're having a retest, and that could possibly be what gets us through that resistance level there. Mm-hmm. But going back to this one. Yeah, what's up?
Ahead. I was going to say, how many touches last previous runs on that 50-week? Just curious.
Yeah, is that our bull, that the 50-week seems to be our bull market support band, no? Or bull market support moving average, looks like.
Yep. So this is this cycle that we've had currently. We touched it pretty much twice previously when we were talking about that full-on year of sideways action that we had previously. And then looking at the last bull market, we, after the first top, came down, touched it once, had a retest, hit it that second time before going up to the new top. But then other than that, there was one small area below it pretty early on, and then we had COVID dip. So that was definitely a Black Swan event. So that went well below the 50-week. But then looking at before that one, this one, the 2017 cycle, didn't even touch it. Didn't even touch it until we got past the all-time highs.
Yeah, I think that's a characteristic of just this bull market in general. Well, I think a lot of people have packed up and taken their bags home and are now in bear market mindset. But it's the by virtue of us spending so much consolidating sideways whenever we've had these down moves, just makes it more likely that we're going to stay closer to that 50-week moving average than prior bull markets where it's basically just been up and to the right. And every single dip that we've had was a lot more aggressive and short-lived.
Agreed. As far as the death cross that you alluded to earlier, this is our second death cross of this cycle. First one happened back in August of 2024 after a good chunk of time. Because before that, the 50-day moving average was so much higher up just after this enormous pump that we had during the ETF run up there. But we had the first one actually happen here on August 9th. But then after that, got back above it, settled out, and now we have that another cross. Outside of that, though, we really don't see that happening until, back, what is this? September of 2023, we had another one this cycle. But then outside of that, that's it for this cycle. Previous cycle, again, between the tops, we had that cross there. And then outside of that, I'm pretty sure, yep, it's just the COVID dip pretty much, where it was probably like 2 weeks after the COVID dip, the momentum started changing, so that's where we get that death cross. And then we also had another one here at the end of the 20. Oh gosh, I want to make sure. Yeah, we had going up. This is 2019. Death cross here, October of 2019. Have a recover. COVID dip happens. Recovery. And then all the way through the rest of the bull market until we get that weird double top stuff going on. Yeah, outside of that, the 2017 cycle didn't even happen.
Yep.
So this seems more of a phenomenon that we're experiencing as we get further into the Bitcoin cycles.
Yeah, man. I mean, the longer you spend consolidating sideways, the closer you're going to stick to those moving averages, right? Like by virtue of price staying relatively range bound.
Exactly.
Right?
That's just how those averages can be really manipulated in that way, because obviously they're time-based moving averages. So if you have a lot of sideways action, they're going to start to converge and they're going to start to kind of equalize out pretty much.
Yes, sir.
Outside of that, though, I think what we talked about probably, was it 2 weeks ago at this point, or was it last week? We were talking about looking further down. Excuse me, not price range. Oh, where are you? There you are. Yeah, so based on the stuff we pulled previously, 72.5, 76.3, these are all areas we talked about, and down there real low, 63 and 60,000.
Yep. Yeah, 63 is a 2024 range point of control, so that's my next, that's really my last level of major horizontal support before I'm like, you know what? Probably time to call, probably time to tip the hat over to the Bears.
I agree. I think that, again, it's this 886 level. It's that $60,650 range. If we break below that, then it doesn't sound too crazy to say that the 4-year cycle has been broken at that point.
Yeah. Well, so I made this distinction on Friday, right? Even so, we might go into an extended bear market, but if we still find a low in 2026, Q3, Q4, technically 4-year cycle is still intact because we measure the cycle low to low, not peak to peak.
Correct.
So I think that's what's getting people because it's a measurement error. So I just want to make that clarification for the folks at home. Cycles are measured low to low, not peak to peak. So even though we might have had an early bull market top at 109K, if we still find our cycle low, 2026 around tail end of Q3, early Q4, 4-year cycle still intact. And the same is true. Let's say we get another run into the $150,000 in 2026. If we giga dump and we find our cycle low in the same time period, 4-year cycle is still going to be intact regardless. So,
yep,
very true.
No, it is. It's true. I mean, when you're looking at all the other macro stuff and the stock market, it is far worse off. I mean, Bitcoin's still green on the weekly super trend. Like, relative to some of the dumps in traditional finance, we're not nearly as bad off. If you look at the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, I think it's a 17. And if you go to the CNN investors sentiment index, it's at a 4. And so that's
right
an
now,
interesting disparity as well.
Fear and Greed right now, let's see. Since we just got the daily close, what is it currently? It's at 23 right now.
Which one are you
big
guys
drop.
looking at?
Which one? Which
Fear and Greed.
index?
I'm looking at the
Alternative?
yeah, that's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah. It was,
Gotcha.
oh shoot, it was 34 until we just had our tick over for the day and it dropped down
Big
to
drop.
23.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
The
Disgusting.
CNC is
Disgusting.
17, and then the CNN is 4, which is wild.
Wild stuff, man. But yeah, by the way, what I have up on the screen right now, this is the good old S&P 500. This is primarily one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is over the last 2 days, we effectively had a 10.7% drop for traditional markets, especially the S&P. This is massive. Not the largest drops that we've ever had, but this is very, very large. And then on top of that one as well, if we go over and we look at the volatility index.
Yeah, big spike on the VIX.
Oh, yeah. We have not had this much volatility since we had the carry trade.
Yep,
loss,
carry trade.
And then I want to say the last one before that was actually COVID.
Yeah.
Carry
Yep,
trade
there you go.
registered way harder.
2020.
It was a lot higher. That's interesting.
Yeah, man, that's what happens when free money is no longer free, man, and the interest starts to accrue on trillions of dollars worth of loans.
Yeah.
Can you guys give a quick explanation of what the VIX chart is for the folks at home who don't know it? And by the way, I'm the folks at home. I don't know what this is.
For sure. So the volatility index measures the volatility of the stock market at large. So whenever you see it spike up high like this, that's when you're going to see a lot of big price movements in either direction. It just so happens that this one, the price direction is downwards. So that's what we're seeing here. Additionally, it's exactly what we saw when we had the Japan carry trade issue back in August of 2024. Because if we go and we look at our S&P chart, gosh, what date was that? I want to say that was right here.
August 3rd? Yep. August 3rd or 5th?
Yep, there we go. We see another very, very large move. So it's kind of one of those things where it shows a lot of panic in the market. And this one was about 7.5% drop over the course of 2 days.
So it's a chart that shows the change in the charts.
There you go. If the VIX is low, it means that it's pretty much business as usual. It means that the markets are going to continue to do what they've pretty much been doing. Again, it doesn't necessarily indicate up or down, although at times high volatility usually does indicate downwards action because low volatility is a good business environment that allows for steady growth to the upside.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And by the way, that volume candle right there, oh boy. That's a big one. It even outpaced the volume candle from the carry trade day.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, man. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see just exactly how much blood is gonna be. Market open tomorrow. So, hey, before we move on to Ethereum Z, Centurion had a quick question. He says hypothetically.
Oh, different one. Okay.
We'll do the super chat a little bit later. Will. He says, hypothetically, bear market has started. What could we see for the 4-year cycle low? Is it 38K? Realized price currently for Bitcoin, Centurion, is sitting at around $45,000. Bitcoin tends to not drop too low below realized price, even when we get to bottom of bear markets. So I think if we were lucky, we might see 38K. Do the same, are we still in the exact same market environment that we're in prior? No, we have bigger players. Will the bigger players allow Bitcoin to get down that low when their average entry points are anywhere between anywhere between $60 to $90, $100,000? Maybe not. I'd be happy to buy more Bitcoin at $38,000. I'm not going to complain. I don't know if we're going to get that low. My base case for bear market, whether we're in one or we're looking at the bottom of the bear market at the tail end of the cycle, my base case is around the realized price, which is currently sitting at around 45K. That's the fair market value for Bitcoin, is realized price.
Just doing some quick fib polls here, trying to see if I can see anything in the numbers. 0.866. That's a good one. I like that one. So, based on just pure Fibonacci retracement, 35K, 28K. Those are the targets I'm getting off this one. Going from trend-based fib extension, going from past bull market top, bull market bottom. Assuming this is new bull market top, then this one we have 22.4 at our, oh gosh, what is that? 1.618, I want to say.
Are your fibs on log?
How do I? Let me double
Go
check
to your
that.
settings. You were there just before. Yeah. Scroll down. There you go. Toggle on fibs on log. There we go.
Ah, thank you very much, sir.
There we go. Yeah, because if you're looking at a magnitude change of like several tens of thousands of dollars, we got to put it on log to correct some of that discrepancy.
There you go. Okay. New 866 from fib extension, $29,800. 866 over here is 20,000, and what is that, like $300 ish? What do you think about those numbers?
Let's see. What are we taking a look at? Here's an interesting piece of information. Every single 4-year cycle from swing low, so from bear market swing low to bull market swing high, if you pull the fib that way, the next bear market has started to retrace deeper and deeper and deeper into the fib levels. Our last bear market retraced to the 0.5 Fibonacci. So I think if we're aiming between the 0.5 and the 0.618 Fibonacci from your fib pool, Z, that's where I would like just shot at the dark.
Okay, let's see. So the last one, we got close to that 786 level, which is about 15,200. We didn't quite hit it, but we got pretty darn close. Let's see what the fib retracement looks like anyways. Fib retracement got down to about the 50% mark.
Yep, 0.5, yep.
Yeah. So, okay, if we make some assumptions based on the last stuff, it means let's look at the 786. So the 786 is $33,681. And then if we assume the 50% here is 41,000, like 41,000 pretty much on the dot. Let me just double check that these are in log as well. Yep, they are. So if you want to take the last market as a pretty good analogy for this one, those are the levels that we could be looking at. And they're not too far apart. Although, so granted, that is still $6,000.
Z, what's the so if you take a fib from 2022 bear market to our current cycle high at 109K, what's the 618 sitting there? Let's assume the 109,000 is our top. What's the 618 sitting at?
From 2022?
Yeah, so bear market low 2022, that's your swing low. And then assuming that we have a bull market top at 109,000, what's our 618 sitting at?
For just a pure retracement.
No, sir. 2022 bear market low to 2025 high.
2022.
No, sir. That's 2020. There you go.
Oh gosh, sorry. Yeah,
no
that
worries.
would be this one, right?
Yes, sir. What's the 618 sitting at currently?
33,000.
33. So yeah, that if we were to assume the exact same thing, right? Every single 4-year cycle, the bear market has retraced into deeper fib territories, right? In the beginning, it was hanging around like a 236,382 and then the 0.5. And now if we're going to assume that the pattern holds around the 618. So between the 0.5, 618, so 33K. So right there where Centurion was thinking, right? He's thinking 38K. I said around realized price, which is around 45,000. So give or take, right? 10, 20%.
Me and Will were actually just having this conversation over dinner. Like, looking back, what is the next expected bottom in relationship to the previous top, etc. We talked about sort of the 20K top and then the 15K bottom. And how those two sort of had an interesting correlation and where the next interlocking spot may be. And we came up with just under, we actually had higher targets of like, higher. He asked me, his first question was, do you think it's going to break 50K? And I personally don't think it will. But we'll see about that. I don't know if you can make a linear extrapolation about the fib targets continuing. The markets change and they move around in terms of how they move, right? They're interlocking with the 50 in an interesting way that they haven't in previous cycles. I think that's going to have a more shallow bear market effect because There's more standardized interest out there, and institutionalized interest and buying interest. So I would bet on the higher end of all those estimations for the bear markets, and maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what Dace proposed is certainly possible. It's along the lines of what I was talking about earlier, right? Because it is different this time. My assumptions are imposed on. My assumptions are based on prior 4-year cycle history, and we don't have the kind of players that we have now, that are sovereign entities, entire countries, nation states, clamoring to accumulate Bitcoin.
Well, and Jay, the 4-year cycle, it works for bottoms. That's it. I mean, if the 4 years were the same this time as they were last time, then we wouldn't have touched the 50-week, and we've already touched it twice. And so not every single TA metric is the same across all 4-year metrics. It's just bottom to bottom. Everything else, is more or less fair game. And so,
that's why I'm making a caveat there, right? The assumptions that I'm making on us retracing into a deeper fib level is based on my prior 4-year cycle assumptions.
Sure.
Right. And we've seen throughout the last few years, there were many things that were different. New all-time high before the halving. We had no Santa rally. We had the worst Q1 post-halving year for Bitcoin and for crypto in general. There were many things that were different this time around. And so can we reasonably assume that our bear market might be different also? Absolutely. Right. We take it level by level, right? So guys, these are assumptions that we're making based on prior cycles, right? We cross that bridge when we get there.
Very true. I mean, all those points are very valid, especially the one where we're getting data confirmations that things are happening different this time around. It's not just the speculation of what if things are different. It's no, things are actually behaving differently.
Yeah.
Big distinction.
Yes. Yeah. Should we move on to Ethereum, or should we do?
Yeah, let's go look at
real quick.
We got one here from
Let's go ahead and roll through some chat shoutouts. Also, we still have that super chat. We're going to get to you eventually, Mr. Centurion. Don't you worry. But from our good buddy Josh, Avenge the Fallen, ETH has already hit the 0.618 Fibonacci from macro low to high.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's relevant to what we're about to go into.
So that's a good point by Josh. I don't know if you caught we did a deep dive into the Ethereum structure a few days ago in the Telegram. And it is my personal opinion, this is an opinion, that Ethereum was never in a bull market. Ethereum for the last 4 years has still been in a corrective structure, which means the rest of that corrective structure is playing out as is, which sucks for people who bought the $4,000 top, but good for us who still want a bull market for Ethereum. Because it means that since we've been in a corrective structure this entire time, we still have more upside to go, right? And that is an assumption based on my bias as an Elliott Wave analyst, because the only bullish scenario I have left for Ethereum right now is an expanding diagonal, which is extremely rare and never to be preferred unless everything else fails. And so I am leaning more towards that Ethereum this past 4 years has been in a corrective structure. So that's my personal opinion. And I think it's actually a more bullish scenario for Ethereum long term.
The old third cycle curse. And first is the term I would use for Ethereum currently.
Gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and run through some of these chat shoutouts. We'll save Mr. Centurion. We will save your super chat for the towards the end of this Ethereum technical analysis, but let's go ahead and run through some of these folks that have been joining up with us. We've got Mr. Pulse Jitsu with Fast Abdul. Shout out to Fast Abdul. I have been running the algorithmic variables. There could be more up or down and or sideways, followed by more up, down, and or sideways. He's absolutely right. Shout out to Fast Abdul. Always hitting it straight on the head. This guy knows what he's talking about. Next up, we got Russ. My odds of being wrecked keep going up. Perhaps. You can't get wrecked if you don't sell, amigo. Yep. I mean, hey, stop losses are important. Shout out to Market Wizards. Highly recommend you guys go read that. That was a book me and Zenith covered for a book club. Man, that shit is helpful for everything having to do with technical analysis and trading and all that. But it's
It was
good
a
to
fun
see you,
one
Russ.
because that book really pointed out that there are people that are able to get away with only TA or only FA, and there's people that have variable strategies and mixes of all these inputs and outputs, and it's like you got to find what works for you. That's really what I got from that book, is that if you hone in and you lean into your strengths, that's going to be where you can find your edge, find your advantage, and that's what made all those guys in that book successful.
I'll tell you what, Russ. Again, I said it once, I'll say it again. You're not wrecked if you never sell. You're only wrecked when you sell while you're down. So just keep fucking holding, bro. Unless it doesn't work for you. I don't know. Might not work for everybody. That's my strategy, and I've lost quite a bit of money so far. So perhaps don't take any financial advice from me. By the way, reminder that nothing that we say on this show is financial advice. We're just a bunch of assholes and degens talking about our feelings on the internet. So y'all need to go and make your own big boy and big girl pants decisions. And speaking of big boys and big girls, we've got Mr. Angry Twinkie saying that the math is doing math. There's some crazy shit going on right here.
Math does math.
Yep.
The math does
math. Yep. Good to see you, Mr. Angry Twinkie. He had some other chat shout outs here that we can cover in a little bit. And then finally, we've got Mr. Paul Sachs. Thumbs up for back shots, and then more thumbs up. I am not entirely sure which type of back shots he's talking about. But hey,
I'm not even sure what this comment is in reference to. Maybe he was responding to a different comment up top, but
I don't know. But Paul Sachs is a good real life friend of mine. Shout out to Paul Sachs, super cool dude, excellent amigo. Met him a few times. What a swell guy. It's good to see you, Paul. Welcome to the show. And let's see. There's a couple other ones that I didn't start. Oh yeah. So Mr. Angry Twinkie said the margin calls are going to be interesting.
Yeah. They certainly are. You know who's not going to be margin called?
What's that?
Sailor.
Really?
There is no margin call. Like people who keep saying Sailor is going to get margin called. There's no margin call for Sailor.
Yeah, because he's not like leverage. He's just taking money from people, and then in 4 years he's going to pay them back, right?
Yeah, it's like
that's all his thing is. He's just borrowing against the value of strategy, and then buying the Bitcoin with it. So he's not actually leveraging.
Hey, there's no margin call for Sailor, gang.
Yeah.
You're not going to liquidate Sailor. Sorry.
Yep. There is no margin calls for Sailor. But everyone else, they might get a little bit.
Everybody else. Yeah.
Yep. We've got some more. Oh yes, Russ. He's come back. His hands are also diamond. That's good. Excellent. We're glad that you're not going to be stumped out, good friend. And then we've got Mr. Angry Twinkie again. Got to believe some of the hedge funds getting uncomfortable this weekend.
Yeah, man.
Maybe. I suppose it depends on how close these hedge funds are to the lizard people that are controlling everything anyway. So that's my 2 cents on that. But yeah, if they're part of the big kids club, then I doubt they're worried. If they're part of the little kids club, they're their own self-made hedge fund, then oof, you're probably about to get stomped out, son.
Yeah, some of these dudes probably not sleeping tonight, man.
Yep. And then we've also got Mr. Fast Abdul shouting out his protocol, the incentive printer protocol. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but it's basically the liquidity fork using incentive as the tokenized asset for getting. Oh wow! Oh, he's talking about a pool. So the incentive dollar paired against DAI is paying 23%. Then that's probably over on 2FUCK. So shout out to you, Mr. Fast Abdul.
Yeah. Is either that or that's part of the incentive token printer, the fork of, was it Liquidity?
Well, so InkD is the stable coin that is printed as a result of you collateralizing your ink. So incentive dollar, so $1 collateralized by incentive in the Liquidity fork protocol paired up against DAI is paying a 23% APR right now, which is fucking crazy for a stablecoin to stablecoin pairing. So shout out to Fast Abdul, shout out to the 2FUCKs, the Bryberry, all the stuff that they're building over there. I hope that you can keep that 20% for pairing $1 to $1, because that's pretty good money, getting money for nothing.
Like we said, man,
go for it.
I was going to say, there's money to be made whether price is going down or up. And Pulse Abdul, Fast Abdul, right? Yep. Ink is printing, so.
Yep.
I'm just thinking in my head, because the comment about the hedge funds be sweating. I'm like, are they sweating over normal stocks, or are they sweating over the Bitcoin price? Because the Bitcoin price, it's not that terrible of a correction, especially when it comes to crypto. But when it comes to the overall markets, I think that is more the thing that they're probably sweating over. Because right now, they're already down 17% from the localized top. And if we look back, this is from 2022, after Biden was elected. We have the top, and it corrected 27% before we had this pretty much like two years of sideways action before we actually recovered it. So if we see something similar, there is definitely more potential downside for the S&P 500, especially considering that we're involving tariffs this time as opposed to just general business environment of the last time. So I don't know if crypto is going to be the thing that really hurts them the most. I think overall it's just going to be generalized market stuff, because even one of the articles that I sent over to Will for tonight, it talks about how the market has lost more money in this correction than the entire crypto market cap combined, because there was about $3.5 trillion that was lost in this correction right here. And again, that's more than not just Bitcoin, but the entire crypto market cap, and more than silver too. So I think that the bleeding for hedge funds is going to be more it's going to be more with regards to the overall S&P 500 or stock market or even global liquidity in Forex and currency rather than just crypto, because they don't even have that much exposure to it technically. There are some big players out there like BlackRock and Sailor and those guys who are pretty much taking up like 2-3% of the Bitcoin supply each. But at the same time, I imagine that hedge funds have like single digit percentage of exposure to cryptocurrency when it comes to the overall portfolios that they have.
Yep. And plus, right, I don't have it pulled up, but it would be very, very interesting to see what the ETF net flows are going to be for the next week, because that'll tell you the story, right? If these big hedge funds are net positive on the flows, then that tells you that they're accumulating while everybody else in the middle of the bell curve is dumping. So, be interesting to see what the flows are going to be for the next week.
True. I do have that data pulled up when we're ready to talk about that as well.
Oh, Doperino. Yeah, let's take a look at that first before switching over to Ethereum.
You want to do some on-chain? All right, let's do some on-chain. Sorry, Will. Switch it over.
Okay. Agent J, yours?
Depends. Z, do you want to go over the inflows first, or should we go over Ethereum? Oh, it's already up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I picked the wrong one. I see now. Hang on.
That's all right. That's all right. We can go over Ethereum first before we go over the on-chain data stuff.
Okay.
That's right. We're just showing Will a bunch of screen presentations, and it's all just various green and red candles, and he has to figure out which one's which.
Presuming, I'm the not chart guy over here. I'm just producing. I don't know how Mrs. Producer does it sometimes. Good job. Shout out to Mrs. Producer, by the way. She's not here tonight, so I'm filling in, and that's why all the camera swaps are very slow. But go ahead and take it away, Mr. Agent J.
Yeah, so you guys already know that we were bearish a lot sooner on Ethereum than we were on Bitcoin. Ethereum hit the 886 way sooner, multiple touches actually. So we were like, look, we're probably going to take the cycle low. We did. And so we are looking at a left translated cycle for Ethereum already. We have a high here on day number 13, and the dates don't really change much. We're expecting Ethereum to keep looking for lows sometime around the day 40 to 45 at the earliest. So day 45 puts you on Friday, the 25th of April, and extrapolating out a full 60-day cycles, you're going to get May 10th. So the exact same timeline for Bitcoin. And because Bitcoin just hit its 886 on the prior day candle yesterday, then we're most likely also going to get a left translated cycle for Bitcoin, right? It's never certainties, just probabilities, but can't ignore the 886. So basically the same thing that's happening over on the 60-day cycles for Ethereum. In terms of price, let's go over the local structures for Ethereum on the 4-hour chart. Right, very similar scenario actually as well. We're either looking for the bullish scenario is going to be an ABC correction, right? Looking for a low in C, a 5-wave move in C, because we got a 5-wave move here in A. So we're looking for a 5-wave move down in C, yet to be completed. Find support after we find the low, and then eventually bullish continuation to the upside, right? If that bounce after we find support is impulsive in nature, then we look for bullish continuation. Otherwise, the bearish scenario, right, very similar to what we were looking at Bitcoin, instead of a ABC correction, you're looking for an impulsive move 1, 2 already in. You're looking for the end of 3. Find support at 3. Have a counter trend rally into 4. And in 4, what we're looking for, if we're being a bit more bearish, is a corrective 3-wave sideways consolidating nature for price, in which case we look for price to head down for Ethereum, right? So the distinction between the bullish and bearish structure is really going to be determined by what's the structure of the bounce going to look like. Impulsive, we look higher. If it's corrective, we look lower. Now, in terms of price, what are we expecting in terms of price for this move down? If we take a Fibonacci extension from the start to the end of A to the end of B, you're going to get your targets for C or 3. And we've already hit some of the common extensions, right, between the 1 and the 1,236 Fibonacci. And so our next target for Ethereum is between the 1,382 and the 1,618, anywhere between 1475 and 1537. All right. The next major horizontal level of support for Ethereum, if we happen to lose these levels, is actually the 2022 range point of control, which is sitting at around $1,290, call it $1,300 flat. All right, so that is the next major area of horizontal support for Ethereum. If we were to somehow lose all of these levels, but we take it level by level, next we're looking at 1537 and then a bit further down at 1475. So there are your price targets to the downside. Now, in terms of time, if we take a fib time tool comparing the length of A to the length of C, we're looking for this correction to end, right, at least this part of the correction, at the 1-for-1 fib time, which is putting us at Wednesday, April 9th, 1 a.m. Again, the exact same timeline for Bitcoin. Why? Because they tend to move in lockstep. When Bitcoin moves, Ethereum tends to follow in lockstep with very slight variations at, rare points in time, right? And even when they do deviate from each other, they tend to line up regardless at the very end. So there are your time targets and your price targets for Ethereum. Now, I just don't want to take a look at the Ethereum price. I do want to go over the ETH Bitcoin chart here on the monthly, because we did indeed find a new low for the Ethereum chart. All right. We're getting very, very, very close to that 886. Now, again, speculation. I only usually use the 886 fib on dollar pairs. I'm not sure if it's going to act in the exact same way in asset pairs, so I'm not going to use the 886 in this aspect, right? If we are going to find a bottom for Ethereum, I really would like Ethereum to find a bottom here around our last cycle bottom at around 0.0165. Right. If Ethereum finds support at 0.0165, finds a double bottom against Bitcoin, then that's usually a bullish sign. You guys know that we've had double bottoms in other asset pairs, XRP and Cardano in recent memory, and you can see exactly what they did after they found that bottom against Bitcoin. Parabolic move to the upside. And so if Ethereum is still going to keep bleeding against Bitcoin, ideally we find support at the last cycle low, which was around 0.0165 for Ethereum. Now, another thing that I wanted to go over very quickly is the following. Ethereum found a bottom against Bitcoin, which is why we focus so heavily on monetary policy. Ethereum found its bottom against Bitcoin right as the Fed ended quantitative tightening September of 2019. And then you can see what followed after. We've had 2 points. We had one last year and then one recently, right? In March, where the Fed said we're going to slow the rate of QT, right? But we haven't ended QT yet. And so if I were a betting man, risk assets are going to be very happy once once the Fed ends QT, right? And then that's when we can get really turbo bullish in risk assets again. But until that time happens, I think Ethereum is going to keep bleeding against Bitcoin and by proxy, the rest of the altcoin space as well, right? And then because Centurion asked it, I'm going to go over Pulse Chain real quick. right? Because he asked when should we rotate from Ethereum into Pulse Chain, and if you were so inclined to do so. Well, very similar concept, right? If you're looking as Ethereum as your metric to use against all RH tickers, which would make sense because they're bonded more tightly to Ethereum than they are with Bitcoin, then we can chart Pulse Chain against Ethereum here on the monthly. Let's actually go to the weekly chart, all right? Unfortunately, it seemed like we were finding a nice bottom against Ethereum, but we lost it, and we still are looking for lows. So here's what I would say, Centurion. All right. I would apply the same rules here for Ethereum and Pulse Chain the same way that I'm applying it for ETH Bitcoin. Right now, Pulse Chain is trying to rally against Ethereum, right? Doesn't want to go lower. If it does start going lower once again, then look for Pulse to find a bottom against Ethereum, right? In this case, you're looking at the, I'm sorry, Centurion, there's too many zeros. So it's not even giving me a value. There's way too many zeros. It's not giving me a value. And so if you're watching at home, sir, put a horizontal line of support at your current wick low here, right? And if Pulse Chain was to once again move to those level, look for price to start bouncing at that level and use it as support. And if it's respecting it at support, and market conditions change to become more friendly for risk assets, then you might want to consider doing the rotation. But until that time comes, I would still sit in Ethereum, right? I would not rotate heavily into risk assets, especially risk assets that sit much higher up in the risk curve, right? I would not do it personally. I am a conservative investor, right? So take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you my thoughts on it and how I would make that move if I were so inclined to do so. Z, did you have anything in terms of Ethereum and what Centurion had to ask?
Oh gosh, Ethereum. I'll be honest. Ethereum is the thing that makes me contemplate if I know anything about TA and fundamental analysis, because my God, I feel like this thing has just been making me look like a fool. When it comes
it's okay, man. You're not alone.
I know. I'm genuinely trying to figure out what the heck is going on there. But I understand your argument for a corrective structure, but at the same time, the fundamental is that at this point in the game, Ethereum should not be looking to challenge the bear market lows. And at the current pace, it doesn't look like we're going to get any new news when it comes to the macro markets, when it comes to the Bitcoin markets. It seems that Ethereum might continue this trend towards the downside, which is closer to the case of a failed coin as opposed to a blue chip, which we've been calling it this whole time. And I genuinely wonder if that status is actually in question at this point.
I personally don't think so. Just by virtue of Ethereum still has the lion's share of total value locked. It is still the premier smart contract platform of choice.
This is all true, yes.
When the world eventually transitions to a DeFi standard, once the world eventually transitions to becoming DeFi native, Ethereum is going to be the front runner. And that means the L1 is going to be used, which means Ethereum is going to be burned for gas, which means it's going to become deflationary again, which means it fulfills the value proposition of ultrasound money, which means price go up. I think at this point in time, we have to take a look at it within the context of the market. It is Bitcoin season. People that are coming into Bitcoin, which is the most of our new players, are not retail. They're TradFi, which means they're playing on centralized exchanges, which means not only are they heavy Bitcoin, they're not playing on DeFi, which means Ethereum is not getting used. The L1 is not being burned. Ethereum is becoming inflationary, which means price go down. And you compound that with the risk environment that we are currently at, right? Throughout the entire globe, not friendly for risk environment, price go down. So it's not exactly friendly for anything. And Ethereum just happens to take the brunt of that. Unfortunately, I think its time will come. All right. So I know it's really hard to convince people of that right now because of the lackluster performance, but I'm looking at other things besides price, right? I think price will follow. And unless Ethereum loses its position as the premier smart contract platform of choice, if the Ethereum Foundation and Vitalik were to drop the ball that hard, then you might have a solid argument. Otherwise, Donald Trump is 50%, more than 50% Ethereum. Right? Ethereum owns almost 60% of all DeFi, and that is comparatively to EVM and non-EVM chains. It's still the king when it comes to DeFi. It'll have its time.
Dace, what was the conversation that you and I were having earlier over dinner with the Ethereum and the price going to, was it based on the shorting and the markets have just been going crazy with the negative price performance after the ETF came out? I can't remember exactly what we talked about, but I remember it was on this subject of Ethereum just bleeding slowly down.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered this on a lot of the live streams. You know, Tracker talks about Ethereum being shorted a lot, very often on our streams. We'll pull up the open interest on the streams on a weekly basis as well. So just another reminder, get in there if you guys are not. Yeah, look, we talk a lot about the effect that traditional finance and options and futures have had on crypto, which is an otherwise previously volatile, but also not enabled on some of these platforms for a long time, right? I mentioned to you over dinner that the Ethereum futures was ETF was live long before the spot ETF was live, and that created a bit of a vacuum and an interesting dynamic among some of those bigger institutional players when the spot ETF did go live, where you see Grayscale rinsing, you know, a lot of its futures positions as the spot ETF goes live. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot of, if you look at the on-chain data, you see that there are large institutions buying. There's no mistake about it. You can't fake that. You can't lie about it. It's not fake news. And so the reality is somebody with lots of money is interested in keeping it cheap so that they can accumulate. Yep. That's what it looks to me when I look at all the angles.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I do have another screen share here for you guys. Our favorite GoPulse.com.
Hey.
And Pulse Chain is largely following the Ethereum plan right now as it stands. Pulse Chain made new all-time lows 2 weeks ago effectively. And if I'm just looking at this chart at a glance, it looks like there possibly is a case for a 5-wave structure here. And then we have a larger corrective structure here that could theoretically be ending sometime soon.
Yep.
So
Pulse Chain has been entirely corrective since inception.
Yeah. So again, the question that I pose whenever we talk about Elliott Waves, though, is that Elliott Wave is a trending tool. It works for trending markets. So you got to make sure that there's an actual trend as opposed to other outside factors that are dominant instead of that. When it comes to PulseX, it's looking a little better at least. We're kind of bouncing around right now near some of these lows that we previously had, but support structure of this 4 zeros and a 12, that's where I see that we could possibly hit another low. So that's what I'm looking at on that one. Incentive token is holding up better. Again, we're testing some of these support areas, came down, touched this 89-cent area. This $1 range is not getting respected nearly as much. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and just delete that one. And then finally, Hex, we got, looks like we're below what used to be a support area. Now has actually possibly flipped into a resistance area that we're going to have to tend with on the way back up. But now looking for potentially that all-time low down there at the 35, oh gosh, 3.5 tenths of a penny.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep,
it's unfortunate that we've given up all the gains that we've had pretty much over the last like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, though, I don't know if it's trending. I don't know if we have other outside factors going on. But as far as confusion in the charts, this is another one that leads me to a little more confusion. Hey, what you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Hex takes the all-time low. I think we make new lows. We hit the 886.
Really?
Yep, I think we take the low. I said we take the low for Pulse Chain. We took the low for Pulse Chain. If I'm wrong, I'd happy to be wrong, but we hit the 886, man. So
when you're walk me through a fib, where would we pull it from?
Current swing low.
This one?
Prior. So your
This
all-time
one.
low, basically. Yes, and then your most recent swing high. There we go. Yep, there to there.
And there we are.
Hmm.
4
You
tenths.
also have to be on log, sir. I think your fibs are still not on log.
New screen, new.
So we didn't mention this, gentlemen, but I don't know how you say it. Nikkei, the Japanese stock market, they pulled the circuit breaker. They hit 7% down. They've turned off trading.
Oh,
This
for the
happened
day?
around an hour ago. Yep.
Oh,
Asian
jeez.
markets opening not for long.
I think you have the. You pulled it opposite. Z. So we start the fib pull from all-time low. Oh, you're on a fib extension right now. That's what you have.
Fib
So go from
retracement.
there we go. Yes, from all-time low to swing high. Let's put those on log.
Apologies. This is Jay
No worries,
giving
no
a
worries.
live coaching as we go.
All good,
And then
bro.
let's
Get it
toggle
done
on
for
the
us.
886.
$886 or 866?
886, sir.
886. Thank you.
And there you go.
Yep, there it is. There it is. Okay, I see what you're saying.
All right.
Little
So I'm
more potential
happy to be
downside in the
wrong.
near future.
Yep, I'm happy to be wrong, but I can never ignore that 86 touch. All right. So especially given the context of the current market environment.
Agreed.
So I'm not just using that as a singular variable. I'm taking a look at how are other risk assets reacting right now. What's the current state of the of the U.S. economy, of the global economy? Not exactly of monetary, right? We're taking into consideration all these variables. So it just so happens that we also touched the 886.
All right, gents. Any other stuff we want to look at or want to check out some on-chain data? Oh,
We
sorry.
want
Let's
to
make sure we
while
actually
we're-
answer the question.
Yeah, while we're in here, shout out, by the way, shout out to Centurion54X with a $5 super chat. For those that didn't see, when or if is the time to deploy the Ethereum bag into the Richard Hart ecosystem?
Yeah.
If you could give some analysis on the pulse to ETH ratio chart, that would be lovely. So we did touch on it, but go ahead and take it away, Z.
As far as the pulse to ETH chart, that's going to be looking at the chart that Jay pulled up earlier, looking at wrapped pulse versus Ethereum. If it can defend a low there, then that might be a good point to do that, especially if we start to see a bit of divergence. We start to see Ethereum start to tick up a little bit, and we see Pulse Chain not kind of tick up nearly as much, then that might be a decent opportunity. As far as the USD value, like we just talked about with this chart on the screen right now, anticipating a new all-time low coming in. So from that standpoint, that would be the good point for there. But if you're looking to rotate from Ethereum, focus on the wrap pulse ETH chart.
Yes.
Jay, am I missing anything there?
No, sir. You hit it right at the head. So the TLDR Centurion, look at Pulse versus Ethereum. You could pull that up on TradingView. TradingView now has the entire history of Pulse Chain. So toggle on the Pulse ETH pair and then draw that horizontal line at where the pair is currently finding support. And if it could find support, right, if it bounces on that level, respecting that support, 1, and 2, look for a shift in risk appetite, right? Because it doesn't matter if it's finding support at that level. It will always break it if everything else goes left, right? You could see it here, Centurion, right? Let me just bring up my screen share real quick, so I could give the folks a visual at home. I know we're spending way too much time on the charts today, but I mean, what else is there to talk about besides price right now, right?
The markets was the news.
Yeah, the markets was the news. So I'm gonna bring up my pulse. So here you go, Centurion. This is for everybody at home. This is what makes trading, like the quality of life the TradingView has versus Deck Screener. It's incomparable. So here's pulse die pair. If you go up here in the top right corner, it's in USD. Toggle on Ethereum, and now suddenly you're charting against Ethereum. So wrap pulse against Ethereum. We are looking for Ethereum for Pulse Chain to keep finding support at the current lows here, right? And how many zeros? Like Centurion, I can't give you a value because TradingView doesn't have a value for me. There's too many zeros in front. Okay, so we're basically eyeballing it. Look for Pulse Chain to bounce on this support level. Number 1. It needs to respect this level. And number two, you need to look for a shift in risk appetite globally, right? Because if you can see here, we were finding support at this prior low. You could see here, this level was very much respected. And we're on the weekly chart. Look how many times Pulse Chain respected this low against Ethereum on the weekly chart. Where is my, here we go. All right, so from this until we lost it, it spent 42 weeks respecting the support until we finally lost it 2 weeks ago, right? Why did that happen? Because the more times you test support or resistance, the weaker it gets. And then obviously you have to consider, well, the risk assets are in the shitter right now. And so hindsight is certainly, 2020, but you consider how many times the support was tested, weaker and weaker each time, current global market environments and risk appetite in general. And yeah, people are going to rotate back into Ethereum in this case, and crypto in general is rotating back into Bitcoin. Dominance is what, getting close to 64% again?
I haven't checked out that chart in a hot minute, actually.
Yeah. So look for Pulse Chain to respect this current low, and then look for a shift in risk appetite Centurion. Until then, I would not rotate heavily. You can take shots, right? It's your money, brother, right? Not financial advice, but you ask for our opinion. This is my personal opinion. Z has his personal opinion. Dace has, Will has, right? All opinions.
BTC dominance currently at 63.28.
There you go.
That it is.
So there's that. Stop sharing my screen here. In other news,
we touched on something earlier, and let's go back to it.
Will,
we asked about
muted, brother. Will, you're muted, homie.
I was just saying, like, hold on, I can produce. I promise. I'll get these screens up. Okay. Oh yeah. Zenith, we got this chart for you.
Let's talk about ETFs. What have we seen lately from the ETFs? Well, we did have a batch of outflows. We had about a week of inflows, and now we're back to the outflows with a single day there where we had inflows. When it comes to the overall volume, though, volume is definitely on the decline when it comes to the ETFs. But the flows is something we talked about that we're going to be watching to see what TradFi is trying to do with their current Bitcoin holdings. If we see outflows, then decent chance the price is going to continue on that same trajectory. But if we see the ETFs actually doubling down and starting to buy it up on the cheap, then that's an indicator that the bleeding might be stopped. Just for fun, I do also have good old liquidations, baby. So,
oh yes.
As far as liquidations goes, it's not as crazy as we've had it in the past, but it is still a notable day there with the longs getting absolutely destroyed. But overall, though, we've had much, much worse times when it comes to the liquidations. So people using leverage, they are losing currently, but it is not as bad as it has been in the past. If anything, this might be an indicator that people were anticipating this kind of a move, especially if you remember the last few shows that we've done on Sundays, talking about how people are actually targeting that 70K and even that 60K area. So the idea that Bitcoin is moving towards the downside, at least temporarily even, is I think people are aware of it, and they're not just getting overexposed and just absolutely wrecked by it. Yes, that is no small chunk of change at, what is this, $885 million. We haven't hit the magical billion number yet, but that is a lot of liquidations for a 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
As far as the on-chain data for the ETFs goes, what do you guys think about that? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for how the ETF flows are going to behave next week. If we see a massive amount of outflows, then obviously that's going to add to the negative price pressure in the market, right? But if we see an opposite, if we see inflows, then I'm like, all right, man, they're buying more. The par for the course, right? They're flushing out the smaller players and they're buying more. It's not the first time we've seen institutions do the counter of what most of retail is buying, and that is to accumulate more.
Definitely. Yeah. Tell you what, I do want to turn it over to an article that I saw on Cointelegraph. This is the bullish case scenario potentially. So Coming from Cointelegraph, we have no country wins a global trade war. Bitcoin to surge as a result? Question mark. This is from an analyst that they have over there. So Donald Trump's trade trial policies will create worldwide macroeconomic turmoil and short-term financial crises that will ultimately lead to greater adoption of Bitcoin as a store of value asset, according to Bitwise analyst Jeff Park. Economic instability from the trade war will cause governments to adopt inflationary, fiscal, and monetary policies, which will further debase currencies and lead to a worldwide flight to safety in alternative stores of value. So the point the article talks about here that I want to post to you guys is that this is where we actually see the possibility of a shift from quantitative tightening, not a reduction in quantitative tightening, which we just got at the last Fed meeting, but an actual shift towards quantitative easing. And as we saw in the previous markets, quantitative easing is one of the things that coincided with the run-up of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins. So the possibility that the case they're making here is that S&P 500 down, tariffs are going up, which is trying to incentivize local production or more industry generation inside the United States. One of the things that helps business environments create new business is lower interest rates, because what it means is the cost of borrowing money is reduced. Therefore, businesses are able to make their minimum payments easier and have a little more operating cash to get things going initially. So this is taking in multiple news stories and trying to create an overarching narrative here, saying that tariffs are in place, trying to incentivize in-country production. Next step after that, a potential step, is quantitative easing, reduction of the interest rates. Will that step allow for the crypto markets to flourish as a result? This would be one of the cases where you actually see the detethering or the decorrelation of those markets, where the traditional markets continue to maybe move downwards or start to bottom. But because you're trying to incentivize people to actually open business, take loans, start producing, then that is one of those things that in the past for the crypto markets allows for that decorrelation and allows for crypto markets to take off. Gentlemen, what do you think? Is this pie in the sky kind of thinking, or is this an actual narrative that could make sense to folks?
Oh, it's well in line with what we expect. Yeah. Like in a lower interest rate environment, it's going to stimulate the economy. Why? Because people and businesses in general, and entrepreneurs and business owners, both big and small, are the ones that really pump money into the market. They're more likely to take out loans because the cost of borrowing is so the cost of money is cheaper. Until that time comes, yeah, people are going to be tight in their pocketbooks, not just in terms of not taking out money, but they're probably going to cut a lot of fat from the bottom line. Right, which means you're probably going to get a contraction of the labor market to some degree. Right, but otherwise, if the opposite happens, then yeah, absolutely.
So if we're to assume that the administration that's made these tariff decisions knows what it was doing and maybe has some idea that this is a potential outcome, it frames their previous actions of endorsing and really waving the flag for crypto just prior, and also introducing legislation about the U.S. government buying Bitcoin prior. The fact that they did that before and not after, right? The timing of these things is very interesting to me. And it's all from the same actors. So it's something to bear in mind as it pertains to this narrative. That's when you read the article, Zenith, those actions and their timeline is what stood out in my brain first, I think.
Okay, do you mind elaborating on that one? So the timing of doing all like the Bitcoin strategic reserve, all the executive orders talking about trying to incentivize crypto inside of the United States, that is before tariffs and trade war stuff comes out. That timing is what you're paying attention to?
Well, yeah. So let's talk about three elements. We've got U.S. policy on crypto, and then we've got U.S. policy as it pertains to tariffs and their corresponding effects in the market. And then we've got interest rates and how they move. And so all three of those things, if you try to piece them all together and see how they interact, let's say, what I would say is that if they thought that everything was going to tank, why would you, like World Liberty Financial bought a ton of Ethereum at 45% higher now, some crazy number higher now. So to some extent, it's a hard sell to be like, oh, it's all planned, right? Of course. But I also think that what it does is it portrays what Jay said earlier, which is a long-term vision for Ethereum, as it pertains to its position in a changing global debt space where all of the stock market, right, is underwater. Like none of it's really solvent. We know that in 2008 the global financial crisis happened. Like we've been pretending it hasn't happened. We've been resuscitating this thing, but the reality is there is only one safe haven that you can't keep printing, and that's Bitcoin. And people are turning on to that. And I think it's interesting that Trump comes out and says, as a government, and also in his private efforts, he's investing in crypto. And then on the other side, he's taking actions that are, well, we see they're tanking the markets, but they're tanking traditional markets harder than they're tanking crypto. And so thus far, everything we haven't even gone into narrative zone. These are just things that have happened. And so it's always interesting when you observe a narrative to try to plug in past facts where, that way you're not extending yourself. You're not overextending any grace in any direction. You're just saying, here are the events thus far, so I would venture, and I've talked about this on previous streams as well. Chair Powell of the Fed pulls the levers he can pull. He can only make certain moves. Trump pulls the levers he can pull. He can only make certain moves. We've seen Trump come out in January. We've seen him come out in March. We've seen him come out every time Powell gets on the mic talking about you need a cut. You know what I mean? And so I just wonder how things are going to play out, right? I'm curious how the May meeting is going to go. I'm curious about how tomorrow we're going to go. We've got some folks here in the comments. Luna C Point says circuit breakers in U.S. tomorrow, ? Mr. Angry Twinkie said, I think so. Yeah. And so look, in the short term, it's a wild situation, but one can't help but wonder if the people at the top making these decisions that are causing this volatility, if they're telling you the angle, we can watch their wallet with this blockchain chain technology. And so something to bear in mind as we move forward.
Yeah. Very true. You mentioned it, so I just want to bring up the stats real quick. We got the good old FedWatch tool. This is talking about potential interest rate cut probabilities based on the 30-day futures markets. So right now we're looking at the May 7th meeting. Right now sitting at a 63.5% chance of no cut. This is notably up from, the no cut scenario is down from about a week ago, which was about 81%. We're down to about 66%. And then if we look out one meeting further than that, come on, website.
This June?
Yeah, looking at the June one, if my data will load. Apologies, we're having some difficulties today, apparently.
It looks like the FedWatch tool is having some difficulty.
You're correct, Jay. It's doing the same thing to me, Zenith. It will only load May for me right now.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm clicking June, and I'm actually clicking every date, and it's only giving me June.
I'll tell you what, if my memory serves correctly, the no cut scenario for June is actually sitting around 9% as of when I had the data loaded earlier in the stream. We're actually closer to, I think it was like 45% for the quarter point cut, and there's actually even a 30% chance of that half point cut. It's not saying that those cuts are going to happen the entire way at that meeting, but it's building possible futures based on like branching futures from the meeting prior as well. So if you assume that 33% goes into effect, that's part of why that other secondary cut is also up there as well. But all this comes back to Jerome Powell and how he interprets data as well. If we go back to the carry trade date, we had everybody like shrieking bloody murder about we need emergency rate cuts outside of the normal cycle as well, trying to scream for that, but never happened. Jerome Powell didn't even say a thing. He just continued and stuck to his guns on the normal stuff, normal schedule. And I wonder if we're going to see a similar thing happen here, which is that he's going to continue to try to take it 1 month at a time. We haven't seen him make any decisions based on single month data effectively. So what I'm predicting is that I think it's not going to happen in May. I think June is possibly the first case for it, especially considering they're targeting 2 rate cuts for the year back at that last meeting as well, and all the meetings prior to that for the rest of 2025. So I'm thinking no rate cut May, probably rate cut in June based on how things are going right now. I don't think that Jerome Powell feels any real pressure, even though the president is tweeting at him on a regular basis that now would be a great time for interest rate cuts. I think Jerome Powell is largely separate from all those pressures, and he's going to continue to do what he's done for his entire time in office there.
Yeah, dude, one of the things that Jerome Powell has said before Trump came into office, in every single meeting and speech that he's held, post Trump getting elected is we're not in any rush to move aggressively with monetary policy. This is literally one of his lines that he feeds the media. We are not in any rush to move aggressively with monetary policy. That's it.
I mean, Trump's playing chicken with the whole rest of the world. He'll probably be okay playing chicken with Powell too. We'll see what happens as a result.
Yeah.
By the way, I do have the tweet here real quick. This is from Yahoo Finance. Trump says it's the perfect time for Powell to cut rates as the market plummets after shocking tariff. This is from April 4th, 2 days ago. We got, this would be a perfect time for Fed Chairman Jerome Powell to cut interest rate. He is always late, but he can now change his image and quickly. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, inflation is down, even eggs are down 69%, and jobs are up all within 2 months. A big win for America. Cut interest rates, Jerome, and stop playing politics.
Man, I posted this in Telegram. The irony of Trump saying stop playing politics. It's just so
ripping
good.
with irony.
Bro, so here's the thing, right?
That's what it does.
I know the optics, right? Because people have this idea that Jerome Powell is the one who makes all the decisions. But remember that the FOMC is a committee. In the same exact way that like Donald Trump can't press a button and then it just happens. There are some things that he can do where he'd be like executive order this, executive order that. But he doesn't just have a blanket unilateral power to do everything in the United States. The same thing for Jerome Powell. Right, Jerome Powell's not going to be like, you know what, man? I know the rest of the 17 or 19 participants collectively say it's probably not a good time to cut rates. He's going to be like, you know what, man? DJT, that's my boy. He said to cut rates. I'm going to just cut rates right now, bro. He ain't doing that, man.
Yeah, but he's the face on the screen, Jay. And
but he's on the face on the screen.
Trump is anybody. He literally is a WWE performer. I mean, not figuratively, literally.
He literally
do something.
He had a few matches.
Battle of the Billionaires, was it?
Yeah, DJT versus Vince McMahon? Shit.
Yeah. I'll say this, though, just to kind of hedge a little bit or provide the alternative scenario. This is an enticing narrative that is laid out, saying that rate cuts is possibly going to be the thing that allows the crypto markets to go. I think part of this argument is also saying that in times of quantitative easing, people are looking for stores of value, and Bitcoin is a store of value. I think that the potential Achilles heel of this argument is that that's not actually the case, especially now that we're in the ETF cycle, because traditional finance is one of the largest players in the space at this point. And I don't think that they truly see crypto as a store of value. I still think that they see it as a risk-on asset. So in times of de-risking, why go into a risk-on asset?
I think some of them are starting to do that. Obviously, when Larry Fink goes on TV, that's what he says. Whether he actually believes that or not, yet to be determined. Which is why we keep an eye on the inflows. All right, total net inflows. What's happening? Are they accumulating more? And it seems like that sentiment is reflective of the behavior. They're just accumulating more. Their balance sheet hasn't gone down. Their net total balance sheet for both Bitcoin and Ethereum hasn't gone down, man. Right? They outpace Saylor's collection in a matter of years, like less than 2 years. They outpace Saylor. Right? Collectively, BlackRock owns more Bitcoin, or they custody more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy has Bitcoin. Not exactly an easy feat, since Saylor now has what? He's got over 500,000 Bitcoin. So he's got 0.5%.
But
or he's got
he's got 2.5.
2.5%.
He's got like 2.5.
Because if 1% is 2.1 million,
or 210,000.
No. If there's 21 million, 10%.
21 million max Bitcoin supply. 1% of that.
So 10% would be 2.1 million, and Michael Saylor has 500,000. So he has
about 2.5%.
Yeah, Will's right, 2.5%. Yep. Yeah, about 2.5%, give or take. Yeah.
One other thing.
BlackRock has more now.
When it comes to the store of value narrative, one thing that I'm going to be looking at is this one right here, the price of gold. I think that gold has been the store of value asset for a long time in human history at that point. So what happens to gold, I think, is going to be it could be an indicator for Bitcoin if the narrative for store value Bitcoin is adopted in the same way that people see gold as this one. So obviously, gold price dropped as well, largely just part and parcel with the overall markets going down. But when it comes to an actual change in what?
Yo, you know everyone's down bad when gold is down, bro. We know how the reason why gold has been making you all-time highs is precisely because of the uncertainty in the markets. The fact that gold is down on the 3-day, that's how you know everybody's down bad, bro. Because I would actually expect gold to be pushing you all-time high still. That's how you know people are down bad.
Yeah. So I think that if gold and Bitcoin stay largely in sync, that could be an indicator that the store of value narrative for Bitcoin is starting to really grab hold and take up adoption. If they don't, then I think that is an indicator that Bitcoin is still largely seen as a risk-on asset. So this is one of the things that I'm going to be paying attention to as we move further into the future here over the summer. Gentlemen, any final thoughts on the analysis of interest rates, store of value, risk on, risk off?
No, sir.
I wanted to just say. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
I was just gonna say. I think the article it put out exactly what Trump said very succinctly. Remember in the Telegram chat on one of our videos or one of our live streams, we showed a clip of Donald Trump. He was asked, "What do you think about what's happening with the stock market?" And he said, "Hey man, you can't look at it within the short term. We look at things here in the West in quarterly terms." And then he made the comparison to China, and he said China has 100-year perspective, and you can't look at the market in quarterly terms. You have to have a long-term view, and what they're doing right now is for the long-term health of the U.S. economy, of the country as a whole, which is a very nice, succinct way to say what the article just said. Right? Short-term pain, long-term gain.
Very true. And when it comes to the tariffs, I think the other thing that you got to take into consideration with it is this a case where the premise from the article was that the tariffs are pretty much here to stay, which is that the tariffs are a way to incentivize American job growth and American industry development. If tariffs are being used as negotiation tactics, as we've seen them largely be used for the rest of the administration, that's a different game, because that means that there will be an end point to them at some point in the near future. And if that is the case, then that means that those tariffs will go away. Therefore, it should increase more business internationally, and the markets should get back to more normal activity. Will, how are we doing on chats?
I was going to say, we like normal activity, so my transition is going to be, ladies and gentlemen, let's transition on over into some chat motherfucking shout-outs. Let me pull up my little handy-dandy paper here. It's time for chat shout-outs, ladies and germs. We've got quite a few. Thank you all for hopping on in and joining us today. So I'll take my slow-ass laptop here and click around. Let's see. So first up, we've got Mr. RH Max. Shout out to Richard Hart Max. Hope you guys can pump those candles up. Glad that we could have you in our chats today, amigo. It's good to see you. Zenith, you're going to be streaming with Mr. RH Max in the near future, are you not?
That I am. Tomorrow, actually, 6 p.m. Eastern time, RH Max is hosting a stream, and he has asked me to be a guest on it. So I will be over there trying to help him pump those candles up the best that I can, or at least providing good information to the people out there.
Excellent,
RH,
excellent.
Now you know who I am, sir. I shouted you out on your stream. I'm always in the streams in our Telegram with Jay, but good to see you, sir.
Yes.
Hey, and Max has been doing a lot of streams with Twinkie. In particular, they're doing a lot of stuff with AI. So if you're trying to look for something productive to do when prices are down, catch some of those streams. They're talking about a lot of different ways to be able to utilize AI to your advantage. So definitely catch those streams with RH Max, Twinkie, and tomorrow with Z.
RH is one of the best. I've watched this stuff a long time.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Good to have you with us today, RH. Next up for the chat shoutouts, we've got our favorite Pepe workout beast on the moon, Mr. Chad Donner-Schwanz. Hello, fellow based crypto bros. Hello to you too, sir. It's always good to have our meme guy out here keeping everyone honest, keeping everyone well disciplined in these chats. Next up, we've got Mixed, aka Jay Zolay. On a brighter note, entertainment values are up on Pulse Chain. He's absolutely right on that. Entertainment values are up on Pulse Chain. We like to, if you're really into the drama, then Just click on over to x.com, type in anything, hashtag Hex or $pulse chain, and you will most certainly find a whole bunch of people snapping back and forth at each other. So yes, the entertainment values are up. I would just encourage everyone to remember that we're all on the same team here. But it's good to see you, Jayzale. Welcome to the stream. We've already shouted out Funk Master Hex, but he was asking, is tomorrow going to be Black Monday? Gentlemen, is tomorrow going to be Black Monday?
I think the crux of the question comes down to has the market fully integrated the news and the new situation? If the answer is no, then there's a decent chance it could be a Black Monday. But I do believe that there was a good chunk of the news that went into play, because I want to say tariffs came out on Thursday last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
it's not
but the move happened Friday. The VIX closed high. Like, I remember thinking, okay, if we closed the week that high on the VIX, what's going to happen on Monday? And like, we're already seeing it some in Japan.
It's true, because if we're looking at the S&P 500 chart as well, on the 1 hour time frame, when it comes to Friday, it was just a steady decline throughout the entire day, as opposed to some sort of like correction or just like a gap down and then some sort of recovery. So something like that leads me to believe that people were starting to accept it more and more as the day went on. If that's the case, then there's a decent probability that it continues into Monday. My point, though, is that this was not a news event that they dropped on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern right before they went out the doors for the weekend. Is that this was a news event of last week. If it continues, I imagine it will continue to be a news event of this week, because the market's dropping this much it's notable for sure.
Mr. Dace, Mr. J. Oh, go ahead.
I don't personally know. I think if I were to take a stab at it,
Jay, you muted yourself, brother. You said if I were to take a stab at it, and then you pulled off, and I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Yeah,
So take your stab again, brother.
Yeah, I think if I were to take a stab at it, probably bad. But I am hoping the silver lining is Jim Cramer came out the other day and said that it's not going to be good next week, and I'm hoping that Inverse Cramer is still alive and well, and that we just go up next week. But
Jim's coming in to save us.
Yeah, but am I gonna hope and dream on hopes and dreams? No. And I don't know. I don't analyze the S&P. I don't analyze any traditional market stocks or indices. I stick predominantly to Bitcoin and crypto. And at least I know that Bitcoin is probably going to sweep the cycle low. How everything else responds, I don't really care.
Mr. Funkmaster, my answer is if you join and click this guy below and stay in our Telegram streams, we will let you know as soon as whatever happens. Because we stay in there. We're streaming, how many, 5 days a week these days? Something like that. We're streaming a lot. So
and sometimes Saturdays.
Yeah, look, at least 5. And so pop in.
I'll put it this way. The DRT team will be streaming at least 3 times tomorrow, because I imagine Jay and Dace are going to do their market open stream. I'm going to hop on RH Max's stream, and then the 3 of us are going to hop on Walk the Block immediately after that. So there's more information coming, baby.
It's going to be a good time. My answer is yes, it's going to be a Black Monday. Not because I know anything, but just because if you expect the worst, then you can be surprised and have a good time. And also, I realized that I accidentally muted you, Jay, instead of muting myself when I went to go cough earlier, because the cameras down at the bottom are switched. So apologies for that. But anyways, we're going to get right back to the chat shoutouts. Next up, we've got Frequency Flow Skateboard. Shout out to Frequency Flow Skateboards. Never seen you before. Welcome to the stream, sir. So, when Quattro Decillionaire, right after Monday, probably going to be like right at the cusp of midnight. That's when we all just infinite growth, exponential money. We're going to have so much money we won't know what to do with it. So that's what you got to wait for, broski. It's just right then. Other than that, whenever you decide to invest enough money to get up there, and whenever you bake enough grilled cheese sandwiches to make it happen. So good to see you, Mr. Frequency Flow Skateboards. Welcome to the stream. Next up, we've got our very own Benny Blanco from the Bronx. Hey, gang. Hey. What's up, Benny? Good to see you, broski. Welcome
to the Church of Hex Telegram over there.
Yes. Oh, man, the Church of Hex.
Yes,
what
indeed.
A fun place. Good to see you, Benny. Benny is one of the best priests in Hexico. Next up in the chat shout out, we've got Miss Luna C. Point. Hey gang, hey Luna, what's going on? We love you right back. Shout out to you. You are a good, wonderful supporter of the channel. She's had some excellent comments in here today as well, talking about the follow the money and like I don't know if you guys had mentioned this, but she was talking about that also like metals are being manipulated right now as well. So I don't know much about that, but hey, we did touch on gold actually a little bit. So good to see you, Luna.
You and I spoke about that over that same leverage conversation at dinner.
Oh yeah, we did.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Because gold got they suppressed the price of gold for like 20 years with all of that like crazy shorting and all of the futures manipulation. So
the ability to trade it right in a non-spot manner. That's right.
Yep. That makes a lot more sense to me now. The speaking of things making lots of sense, we've got Hexkin Lost in Asia shouting out you guys doing the charts earlier for the lion's share of the stream today. Hexkin Lost in Asia loves the charts, and we love you, Mr. Hexkin Lost in Asia. Broski. Thank you.
We lost you, Will.
Somebody's calling Will.
Still hear me?
There you
Can
are.
you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Yep. I was just saying somebody's calling me, and I'll call you right back, Mr. Zach. If you're watching, you're probably not since you just tried to call me. But anyways, shout out to Zach and shout out to also Hexkid Lost in Asia. Totally different people, but one of them's calling me and the other one's doing the cool ass super chats. Next up, we've got this gentleman I'm not going to read the name out of because I'm fairly certain that's a token, but he's talking about the DGen Roundtable is a store of value, very low downside. The DGen Roundtable should take over as the official currency of the United States. I'm going to go ahead and say that while this gentleman is enthusiastic and awesome, I totally disagree. You guys should probably not buy that token because we made it as a joke, slotted it as not as a joke, as an educational example on how to make a token in cryptocurrency. And there's not a whole lot of liquidity for that DRT token. So
it is
shout out to
literally a
this
token that was created for manipulation.
Yep. And then we manipulated it. And, that's exactly what happened. So shout out to this gentleman who I will not name. DRT should take over as the official currency of the United States. I would love for that to happen. There's only 69,420,404 of these tokens available on the market. So, if you find yourself convincing good old whoever the hell is in charge of the whatever currency is adopted by the world, then if they start choosing DRT, then I would be more than flattered. So shout out to you, sir. And then we finally have Mr. K. Hudson scooping up that ETH. That is a fantastic idea, Mr. K. Hudson. Now is the time to scoop up that ETH. And then I suppose he's bridging it on in. I'm guessing that's what bridging means. So excellent, excellent. Good to see you, K. Hudson. Good to see all of you guys, whether you're, again, watching us live or you're on the replay gang. You guys are the very best. And we especially appreciate those of you guys that take the time to chat and comment with us as we are streaming as well. Gentlemen, we're getting close to the top of the hour where we're going to go ahead and end the show. Before we do that, there's a couple of headlines. I kind of want to skim through some of these things just to kind of get the folks at home thinking about stuff. So we're not going to cover these articles, but these are just some things that I've found throughout the week, specifically just the last couple days. So just for the folks at home, listen to this, and then we'll go around the horn and give everyone an opportunity to talk about what's going on in the near future and where they can be found. So there is going to be a second crypto task force from the SEC on April 11th. So that's going on. They've got 4 of them total that they're going to be doing. The next one is April 11th. So that's happening very soon. The House passed a central bank digital currency anti-surveillance act. So we'll see where that goes, but it's gone through the House. That one was headed up by Representative Tom Emmer, as I believe. Next up, we've got Treasury. The U.S. Treasury sanctions Houthi network procuring weapons and commodities. Basically, there was 8 wallets on the Tether network that got sanctioned by the United States because they were sending things over to Yemen. So this just goes to show that if you're on the Tether network, your funds can be frozen. You can
Tether can freeze you, man.
Yep, they can stop you. So
make no mistake about it. Tether can freeze you.
All they got to do is label you a terrorist, and whether it's correct or not, all they got to do is slap that label on, and then voila. It's like, I imagine it's just as difficult for people who have the same name as a terrorist who are trying to fly somewhere, and then they get scooped up by the TSA at airports, and then they get all their shit rummaged through because they've got the same name as someone. So just be careful using the Tether network. Be careful using the centralized stablecoins. And
Will, this is 2 days after Trump posted that video of the Houthi, of the U.S. bombing the Houthis. If you look up 2 days ago, they were dropping bombs in Yemen. So it's an interesting timing.
Yep, Yemen has been having a lot of difficult times lately, and I don't care to get into the politics. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I know that they have been having a bad time for several years now. If you guys want more information on that, you can check out Dave Smith, Part of the Problem. He hosts a podcast. He does some good work. But moving right along, I've got 2 more headlines I want to cover. The SEC staff clarifies that some cryptocurrency stablecoins are not securities, and those are the ones that are backed 1-for-1 with US dollars. So things like Circle's USDC and things like Tether, those would not be considered securities. But other things, such as algorithmically backed stablecoins. What's up?
Did they say backed by US bank deposits or cash equivalents?
Ooh, let
Did they
me
make that distinction?
The SEC has added a dollar-based stablecoins, but may snub Tether. Oh, look at that!
Yeah, the verbiage was just dollar-backed or dollar-based, I believe, Jay.
Okay.
It was definitely around the word dollar instead of anything else.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is, if you've got like the algorithmic stuff, like the Liquidity forks or the MakerDAO protocol, it's like, hey, congratulations, you are not on the safe list. So there is that. And then the final article is that Elon Musk urges the Supreme Court to block the IRS access to Coinbase user data. And I don't know a whole lot of the specifics on this. I didn't actually read through the article, but I saw it and I thought that it was pretty darn cool to see that anyone telling the IRS to not access customer data, I'm okay with, because the less power the IRS has, the happier I'm going to be. So that's all that I've got for the articles we didn't have time to cover today. Gentlemen, is there anything you want to just kind of mention in passing before we go ahead and close out the show?
I am going to be really interested to see just exactly how that plays out, right? Because Coinbase is a fintech company. I don't know how they're going to avoid the IRS. Well, I mean, if they get audited, they get audited. I don't know how a financial technology company can avoid being audited by the IRS and them having to reveal, I guess their own financials. I don't know how the customer financials are going to play out. They can probably go like, hey, customer confidentiality route. I'd be interested to see how that plays out.
I would imagine that there's got to be some legal line, Jay, between a corporation that's dealing in that industry and customers.
Yeah.
Legally, there's got to be some sort of a distinction of perspective, I would think. I'm guessing.
So I'm kind of cruising through the article right now, and they're challenging the suspicionless subpoenas. So basically, the IRS has been doing a whole bunch of dragnet subpoenaing and getting a whole bunch of individuals.
So digital probable cause. That's what we're talking about.
Yep. So it seems like it's a pretty reasonable request, just as a glance. Again, I haven't gone through the article totally. If you guys want to check that article out, I posted it earlier today at about 3 p.m. Central, 3:30 p.m., something like that, where I had said these are the things that we might be talking about today. So if you guys want to check out that article, it is linked over there. And also you can find a lot of the news that I find over at crypto_news in Telegram. So t.me/crypto_news. And on the subject of where things can be found and things of that nature, gentlemen, let's go ahead and talk about where we can be found and what we've got going on in the near future. We'll start with Agent J, go to Dace, then Zenith, and I will finish out. Mr. Agent J, where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future?
Market open stream tomorrow. So if shit hits the fan overnight, you'll know where to find us. You'll get it at the Telegram first. We have that at 7:45 a.m. MST, and then we obviously have Walk the Block on our 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we got 2 streams scheduled tomorrow, which I will be in personally, and then Zenith will obviously go over the details with RH Max. That's what I've got going on in the nearby future, which is like less than 12 hours from now. Other than that, you can find me on Instagram at agent_J on X at _P90Hex. However, I spend most of my time in the Telegram talking crypto with our community. I post rarely on crypto Twitter. I usually use that for information. I'm never really on Instagram anyway, so find me on the Telegram. I'm not even gonna give my socials anymore. I'm just gonna go scan the damn QR code, like the damn video, comment, subscribe, scan the QR code, jump in the Telegram chat if you want to catch the alpha first and foremost, because the Telegram community gets it first. Thank you once again for those of you catching us here on the live stream, and for those of you who will be watching us on the replay. We know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us on this wonderful Sunday evening. You could be anywhere else, but you're here with the DGen Roundtable. So thank you very much for doing so. Until next time, Dace.
So you can find me on Instagram, on X, and on Telegram in the DGen group that you can join right here as Dace Northal. I'm on, I would say, 85% or more of all of Jay's streams. I'll be on tomorrow night, if not also on in the morning. So you can catch me there. Like I said, Instagram, X, Telegram, all at Dace Northal.
Folks, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. I like to repost a lot of good legal happenings over there, as well as just general market happenings and funny memes. Outside of that, though, RH Max's stream on tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Catch us over there as we attempt to pump green candles into the ecosystem. And then after that, I'm going to be on Walk the Block. And then other than that, got the Wednesday show coming up. Got a Friday book club coming up. And as always, Sunday show next week, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Same time as all the rest of our streams, by the way. Makes it nice and easy for you. But outside of that, thank you guys so much for coming today. I know there's a lot of uncertainty out there and a lot of fear, but weather through it. We will get through this together. It too shall pass. Will, what you got?
Excellent. So reminder for the folks at home, we have a book club on Friday coming up. We're going to be covering How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. That is suggested by our very own Moonpilled Rational Optics. So again, thank you, Moonpilled, for that fantastic suggestion. Dace, I was trying to find your socials and stuff in my little quick thing that I pull up, but I didn't even have it in there. So guys, go find Dace. You can find him in our Telegram. You can find him, just as he said, over on Instagram and on Twitter, Dace Northal. As far as for me, actually, we have one other chat shout out that came in. Shout out to the Brothers 64. Shout out to Sam and Greg, fantastic gentlemen. Thanks for the stream, Degens. Abso-freaking-lutely, amigo. We are glad to have you in here, and we're glad to be giving you this financial entertainment and not advice. Just kind of us talking about our feelings and things. So good to have you in the show, broski, and glad that we could have you with us. Like the gentleman said, we have. I believe that Nate is hosting our guest episode on Wednesday. I do not know if the gentlemen have done a solid confirmation, but I am aware that we have got a pretty good line of contact with some folks that are coming up on Wednesday. And if nothing happens there, then expect more information from Nate in the channel. I'm sure he will give it to you guys. I will be out and about on Wednesday, so I will be busy, not hanging around, but I will be back for the Friday book club. And then same thing on Sunday as well. Like you guys can see on the scrolling chyron on the bottom of the screen, we're live every 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays, right here at youtube.com/@DGen Roundtable. Or if you're watching us on Twitter, you guys know where to find us right there as well. For me, you guys can find,
one more piece to leave with the folks.
Yes.
We have a massive CME gap between 79.6K and 81.4 thousand. If you're looking for a bounce and a quick flip trade, might fill that gap, might get rejected and head back down. So, trade safely, degen responsibly, right?
Trade safely and degen responsibly. Absolutely. What are you gonna? Is this just for the market open on Monday, or is this
the
a
CME
different
gaps
time frame?
can be filled at their leisure? Right.
Okay.
It might happen tomorrow. It might happen a month from now. Who knows? But they tend to be filled.
Okay. So this isn't the only time for folks to be thinking about it. It might be brought up again in the near future, but it's an opportunity.
Yes, sir. It is an opportunity.
All righty. Excellent. Well, good little final thought there. I like it. For the folks at home that don't know, you guys can find me and all of my socials off of will.pls.fyi. That is my little pulse chain domain name. You can find my Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook, my Telegram, my fucking book that I wrote a long time ago. More of a blog post, really. But you can find all that stuff there. And if you're a Hexagon and you want to go meet other Hexagons IRL, then you need to go to bit.ly/hex_meetup. I like to organize meetups whenever I can. Like right now, over this weekend, I've been hanging out with this fantastic gentleman right here who's been kind enough to host me in his house. So thank you, Mr. Dace, for the hospitality and the friendship and everything. And for those of you that are out there at home and you want to go meet other Hexagons IRL, go to bit.ly/hex_meetup. It's a little Telegram group that I made. You guys can create topics on whatever state or whatever country you're in, or you can message me and ask me to create a topic. I'll do it. And yeah, just read through there, find out what you like, and it's a good time. Go meet people, shake hands, kiss babies, do all that good stuff. And with that, it's time to go ahead and read the copywriting for the end of the show and make sure that I have my mouse lined up to where it needs to be so I can end the show properly. All right. Oh, that's the wrong part. I want to thank all of you for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As Agent J just said a moment ago, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. Mr. Producer, which is me. Oh, shoot, my mouse is in the wrong spot. Go ahead and get that trigger finger ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.